Hey, Randy Joe here, and welcome back to the channel, where every month we have been listening to a different Kate Bush album, starting from the beginning of her discography with The Kick Inside. Our last album we checked out was a little over a month ago now. It was The Sensual World, an album that I did quite enjoy, and I have come back to a few times, but I was a little let down, given the fact that I enjoy the much more theatrical side of Kate, rather than the more kind of subtle side of her that she seemed to hone in on a lot more on The Sensual World. Not that she wasn't subtle on records such as Never Forever, which I thought was phenomenal, or even The Kick Inside, but even then, those records do have a bit more of a theatrical side to it that I do enjoy more than The Sensual World's much more hushed, kind of down-tempo tone. On top of that, even though, again, I did enjoy The Sensual World, I did think that the more weird tracks tried a little too hard sometimes to be weird and didn't feel as authentic. Specifically the track Heads We're Dancing. But today we are checking out The Red Shoes, which came out in 1993. It is 12 tracks long, it is 55 minutes, and it is, I know to some, considered to be one of her weaker albums, but other people seem to have really come around on it and seem to say that it is one of her most underrated projects. So I'm not sure what to expect going into this, but I am looking forward to seeing which side I land on in terms of the general consensus of the record. Without further ado, like I said, it is 12 tracks, it is 55 minutes. Let's jump into the first one, Rubber Band Girl. Bit of a punchiness, a kickness to this. I believe that's the Fairlight that she's using on this, which, as we know, pretty prominent on her records. Seems like she wants to kind of snap back into things, perhaps. I'm not sure what it is. This track is reminding me kind of like Peter Gabriel vibes is what I'm getting from this one, which I know she's worked with in the past. I know she's a fan of his and has collaborated with him. And I feel like his sound, his style, his sort of art pop focus feels more kind of prominent on this track. I like the deep, is that a bass perhaps in the background there? Kind of has that rubber band effect to it, you know, it feels almost like a rubber band being plucked. I really like this very strange instrumental there, very almost like eerie tone to it. Oh, this guitar, very electrified. Danny McIntosh on guitar on this one, I believe. Oh, and I like the horns coming in. Maybe Nigel Hitchcock, perhaps. I really like this continual kind of driving beat that this drum pattern has. Really great kind of like showy intro here. And those horns, the guitars, everything feels very twisted. I like that intro. Very theatrical. This is the side of Kate that I liked a bit more. Feels much more in your face, feels much more kind of like grand. Which, that's a great intro. Very showy. The horn section especially feels kind of like a almost like a classic show tune twist on it. Let's go into And So Is Love. thought that first track really did kick it off strong. Now we're going to a bit more of a softer avenue. Not sure what that is. Maybe the Hammond organ. But I like its soft tone. Kind of sounds like a flute. Oh, this drum machine, which I imagine is a drum machine. I love how scattered it feels. It bounces around the ears. Ooh. We got a slowly simmering hi-hat here. Ooh. This one's very delicate. And Eric Clapton on the guitar on this one. Not necessarily the biggest fan of him as a person, but every once in a while, he plays a good tune. Oh. Man, she really belted out there. This one's very, like I said, subtle. This is kind of reminding me of Never Forever in terms of a subtle yet grand kind of focus. Nice, like, melancholic, pained feel to that guitar work. I like how sweet this one is, and very well paced, despite its kind of slow momentum. It soars ever so gently before a nice come down here. And really glides over that 4-minute runtime like nothing. That's a great track. Very beautiful, very subtle, very simplistic lyrically. And I would say subtle also, again, lyrically. Perhaps talking about the delicate nature of love on this track. How it kind of comes and goes. And how sometimes you could pour so much into it. And perhaps it can betray you or slip away. That was a really nice one. Next we're going into Eat the Music, which has some of the lowest streams on the album. Although this album in general, definitely not as nearly streamed as much of her work. Oh, what the heck? We got a bit of a world music vibe, like we're somewhere nice and warm, somewhere tropical. Oh, this is an island vibe. I feel like this is one of her weirder tracks, and that's saying a lot. Maybe talking about her fans, the way people consume her music. No interpretations, we'll make our own. This is such a weird track. I love the vibe. I love the atmosphere of it. It just does not feel at all like Kate. That being said, it is quite a tropical little foray here. And a lot of fruit metaphors. Also some heavy backup vocals here. This is one of the most, I feel like, fun tracks we've heard from her in a while. Maybe Justin Valley on the caboose and the vocals. Really giving it that island vibe. I like this kind of rising focus. You know, it feels very uplifting, which is surprising for her. It's just like about the maybe the joy of music or the beauty of music and the kind of fulfilling feeling it gives one. Such a joyful track. Beautiful. I love that one. That one was so upbeat, so happy. I really like the atmosphere, even though it does not fit the first two tracks. This is not a I would say sonically consistent record, but I do quite enjoy the different avenues it's gone into. That's for sure. Eat the Music was just super upbeat. Probably the most joyous I've ever heard Kate sound, because usually there's a sense of, I feel like, melancholy even to her tracks that have some sense of joy in them. Let's go into Moments of Pleasure. Her piano work always comes in strong, but these strings too. Very beautiful. Very sweet track, perhaps about two lovers falling in love. Very brief moments. Oh. Just being alive, it can really hurt, and these moments given are a gift from time. That's a very sweet set of lyrics, very passionate. Finding the beauty in life. I love this chorus. A gorgeous chorus. So sweet, so passionate. I think she's here just talking about different moments, maybe in her own life, that have held such significance to her. Really great piano ballad, just so swelling in its strings. Seems like she's remembering her mother throughout this track too. Definitely like a tribute track. Very like autobiographical, it would seem, this track. Because she's usually shouting out what I imagine is people from her life. Are these people she's lost, perhaps? Wow. This outro. Really gorgeous track, and that outro, yeah, like I thought, seems to be a tribute to a handful of people who held great significance to her throughout her life. Very sweet, beautiful piano ballad. Such a, again, stark contrast right after Eat the Music. But I'm liking the direction of this album where I feel like I can't predict what's next. On that note, let's go into the Song of Solomon. A really nice atmosphere overall too on this record, which Kay has never struggled with, that's for sure. I really love these haunting echoes of the lyrics. Oh. She perhaps twisting the expectations of sex? Of gender, perhaps? I think I like this track quite a bit. Ooh. I love the arrangements on this one. Like the vocal arrangements especially. Perhaps giving herself completely over to this other lover who maybe isn't reciprocating in the same fashion. I feel like Wop Bam Boom is hard to take seriously, and a song that feels pretty serious for the most part. If we take it at face value, I think this is a track about giving yourself over, like I said, to a lover who seems to be just kind of using Kate or the protagonist here for their own sense of pleasure. Maybe their own ego. You write me your poetry motion, write it just for me, and sign it with a kiss. Feels like this lover is purely ego-driven more than anything, not even just a sexual focus. But I like that one too. I love how gentle it is, yet with a strong sense of yearning. Let's go into Lily. So far, it's been a pretty solid record, I will say. Although very scattered. What is this open?
Hidden by a disk of golden light, that we may know the truth and do our whole duty.
Lily Confort on the narration.
To thy sacred feet. Yourself, you can protect yourself.
Give it a pause. Give it a pause. Who is this Lily? Seems like Lily was some sort of a therapist of sorts, or spiritual healer, as I've read. A spiritual healer named Lily Conford, whom Bush met and befriended in the 90s. Okay, nice little another tribute track. I love how much Kate seems to be honoring those who've impacted her in her life on this record. Ooh, getting quite religious with the lyrics here. I like that instrument. That kind of long, drawn out, maybe a horn of some sort. I quite enjoy the production on this record. It feels like it has a bit more of an edgier focus. I think that's the 90s tone kind of coming through. But still very much in the essence of Kate. I did like that one. It is one of my least favorite perhaps so far, but I'm not too sure. I liked its open. I liked its narration, but I don't know. I'm iffy on that one. I think just sonically, it's not of my favorites so far. I really like the piano ballads that we've gotten, and I really like Eat the Music, which I still can't believe how low the streams are, perhaps just because it is such a different tone. But I liked that switch up. Let's go into the Red Shoes. This is the title track. 2.1 million streams on this one, which I thought, maybe it will, but I thought this album as a whole would have a more kind of Wizard of Oz-esque focus. But it seems like maybe it could just be the title track. Let's find out. From what I read, she might have been using the Red Shoes on this track, or on this album, I should say, as more of like a kind of be careful what you wish for type of theme. Here's a bit of that kind of Wizard of Oz focus. Oh, I like a bit of this kind of jig-inspired tune. Very upbeat, much for like that pounding focus. Ooh. Very mystical, kind of light focus on these. Like a flute of some sort. I like the story focus of this one too. God, I love this thumping focus. Oh. Bit of a monkey's paw situation. Oh. Here it is. Kind of getting spiritual here. Seems like she's in a non-stop dance, a dance of death perhaps. It's like she's getting possessed by these red shoes. I like this one. I like that one a lot. It has a really great kind of Scandinavian kind of dance to it. Kind of a jig, if you may. Which she has certainly honored and tributed in the past, such on Hounds of Love. And I believe on Never Forever, if I'm not mistaken, had a track that was also kind of similar in tone. It seems like she always honors her roots on a lot of these albums, which I always like. It's a nice little, twist and a very respectable and honorable thing for her to do. Let's go to Top of the City. She must be talking about London. Not sure on this one. This one's not really drawing me in. The track gives the impression of the airiness and being held high up in the clouds over a city, but retains a strong element of desperation, which some fans have been believed to be hints towards suicide. Whether or not this is actually the case, the song depicts someone desperately searching for peace amongst trouble in their relationship. This one is not pulling me in, and I'm not really gathering that vibe, but I'll search for it. I don't know if I'm really getting the kind of suicide speculation. Perhaps I do kind of get that sense of kind of searching for a peace or some sort of comfort. I think it's a desperation in a relationship, you know, here, like almost like a plea to be shown, like, what's to stick around for? What's the meaning of this?
One more step to the top.
I like the soaring kind of tone of this track, kind of matching that top of the city vibe. Yeah, that one's a little iffy. I like taking the theme, my interpretation. I like the idea that it's like a desperate plea for meaning in this relationship. But there's not much to it. There's nothing about that one that jumps out to me. But I feel like she could definitely scratch beneath the surface a bit more on that track. Which unfortunately for Kate has never been the case. She does feel like she delves pretty deep into themes and her own sort of ideas. But it feels like Top of the City, I don't know, it just didn't do anything for me, unfortunately. Apologies if you are a big fan of that track. Let's go into Constellation of the Heart. This one's got a much more upbeat, almost like a new wave tone to it. Reversing our telescope here to look inside. I know she has a collaboration with Prince on track 11. I would have thought it was this song, given the kind of the atmosphere and tone, being like a bit more of a Prince fusion track. I believe that's the Hammond organ once again, which I love that sound. Such a distinct tone. It was very 80s, kind of synthy. Oh. Damn, I really love the way that all came together there. Such a unified tone. I love this, the way they're... Ooh. Watching the heart. Again, has a Peter Gabriel tone as well to this track, too, I feel like. Almost like his production. Gotta look inside is the message. I love this kind of tug and pull in the narration here. It'll be beautiful and wonderful. Some of these tracks I've noticed lyrically have some, little connections here and there. For example, the ladder here, feeling like a bit of a callback to the last track, as she mentioned ladder on that previous one. And here it seems to come back. Whether or not that's intentional, I'm not sure. But being lifted up to the stars, lifted up to the top of the city, I don't know. Feels like it might be intentional. Bit of a colder production on here. Feels very kind of 80s dance infused. I like that one a lot. Specifically the production on that one I really liked. It's much more classic 80s tone to it, despite coming out in the 90s. Feels like a little bit of a throwback tune. Let's go into Big Stripey Lie. Ooh. And this has that kind of cold, that cold, punchy sound of the 90s. Kind of remind me of some of Bowie's work in the 90s, specifically his record Outside, which I'm not the biggest fan of, admittedly. But this came out before then, so I just thought that's interesting. This album has a much more punchy kind of production to it, for sure. Not sure if that's the kind of drum machines becoming more apparent on it. Jesus. Oh, getting noisy. This one feels disturbed. This one's really weird, really. It's both funky, yet twisted sounding. Again, reminding me of the darkness in Bowie's Outside record. You got like crashing cymbals there too in the background, kind of buried in the mix. And these strings feel so pained. Seems like even Kate herself seems to suggest that the deciphering of the meaning of this track is one to figure out, because even she seems a little confused on it by saying Big Stripey Lie is a law unto itself and nearly didn't make it onto the album. I could see why. It's very weird. It's very just like twisted sounding in comparison to the rest of the record. I don't know whether or not I like it. I think I like it, but it's also one that's hard to find any sort of like grasp or groove to hang on to. Feels so bizarre. Let's go into Why Should I Love You, which has the most popular here. It's 4.2 million streams.
This chapter says,
Opening with a chapter. It's gone. I already forgot the name of the track because I put it out of my mind. I like that slowly ascending and descending melody. I love that. Oh. Another sweet love track, perhaps? This is the one with Prince on it, I believe. A smile that healed. Maybe a tribute track perhaps to Jesus himself? Or just comparing this lover to Jesus? That Prince on the guitar as well. I feel like it is. Yeah. He has a distinct tone, I feel like, in his guitar work. I also like that bass. Do 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 do. Bow no 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 bow 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 down now. Oh. That's not Prince. Lenny Henry. Comedian and actor. Unfamiliar with him. But he's got a nice voice. Slight soulful tone. This is a beautiful track. Has like a kind of religious tone tied to this love of her life. And of course, the guitar work from Prince is always a welcome addition because he was, I should say, an incredible guitarist. Also, I didn't even notice the percussion in the background of this one. But it's certainly a nice addition as well. It's just so buried in the mix among all the other beautiful aspects of this record. Sounds like congas, perhaps, or bongos. Another really like uplifting tone to this track, which this album really loves to go back and forth between uplifting, kind of pure bouts of love, into sometimes very harrowing, eerie piano ballads. Let's go into You're the One, the final track here. Right back into slowing things down. Ooh, perhaps a breakup here. A much more depressing track to end things on. Ooh, I like where this is going. That feeling of a breakup. Where you don't want anything else, you just want this person. We went from such a beautiful, uplifting love track on the last one to something that is kind of crushing in its sound. And nothing too cryptic about these lyrics. Very blunt and straightforward this time around. The most important thing, I would argue, in a relationship is if they make you laugh. I love the kind of slow hi-hat there. Such a pained ending to this album. Love the effect on her voice there. And then a much more kind of focused vocal there. Kind of mirroring this kind of panicked, manic feeling of a breakup. Oh! Spiraling out, Miss Bush. Compose yourself. You don't want that desperation seeking through. This guitar work too is... Oh, Jeff Beck. Oh my goodness. An incredible guitarist as well. I love what he's adding to this second half of the track. The guitar is such an emotive instrument. This is a beautiful, ascending, pained outro. I feel like it's really wallowing in despair. And it fades away just like that. Hard to let go love. A slow fade. And that does it for the Red Shoes today. That's a great closer, by the way. So much pain. And maybe my favorite track on the record. I don't know why it has less than 1 million streams. That is preposterous. Because it is so full of pain. So emotive. And I feel like it captures that really sad desperation amidst a breakup where, you know, nothing else compares. None of your belongings that you have really fulfill you. The possible other man that she mentions doesn't do it for her. And everything she seems to see reminds her of the one that she had, who is just really incomparable. A great pained outro, especially after that incredibly upbeat, fun, poppy, Prince-infused track with Why Should I Love You. I gotta say, the Red Shoes, I went into this with middling expectations, and I came out pleasantly surprised. It is a mixed bag in terms of, style. I feel like you get so many different styles, including Eat the Music, which was also super upbeat, but like tropical, kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it, Hawaiian-esque tune. Very out there, very weird, even for Kate Bush standards, because I feel like she's never touched on something of that caliber or style. And hearing it here, still very left field in the track list. It's perhaps the weirdest of all of them. And that's saying something considering how weird Big Stripey Lie was, which is probably my least favorite on the track list, along with Top of the City, which I didn't particularly love either. But I gotta say, this is a strong record. Has some really great songwriting, some of her most straightforward songwriting, but I sometimes appreciate a much more blunt and obvious track over something that is overly descriptive for the sake of poetry's sake. I also liked how much a lot of this album seems to be a tribute to those that help her make her who she was in 93 here. There's nothing I could really, I feel like, say about this. There's no revelations I have about this album. I just feel like it is a very worthwhile, sweet bunch of tracks that feel like a nice breath of fresh air. It doesn't feel as cohesive of an album, but I kind of like that for Kate, because it feels like sometimes she's always trying to aim for something that is very cohesive and very consistent, whereas this time around it just feels like a really great bunch of tracks. I also like, obviously, the high profile collabs on this record. Jeff Beck, Prince, the comedian who I'm not familiar with, seems to be a prominent figure, at least, on track 11, Why Should I Love You? And even Eric Clapton on the second track, And So Is Love, who, again, not a fan of him as a person. He is still a very talented guitarist, which it seems like this time around she was focused on guitarists more than anything, considering she had 3 high-profile guitarists on the record. But that does it for today's record. There's not too much to say. I just think this was a pleasant surprise, and after the Sensual World, which did, admittedly, like I said, let me down a little bit, the Red Shoes feels like a nice kind of comeback for me personally for Kate Bush, given the fact that it is not as focused in its sound, it is not as cohesive or consistent, but it is certainly just a great batch of tracks. And at the end of the day, that is a very important thing to have in a record. That does it for the Kate Bush video for the month. I look forward to a month from now when we check out her next record, that of course being her 2005 record, Ariel, which I know has a pretty mammoth of a second side with what is considered one entire record, which we will of course cover in a month's time. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe to follow along in listening to Kate Bush's discography, and not just Kate Bush, but also we're doing Rocktober, where we will be covering different rock albums throughout October. I have listened to a plethora of rock albums, so it's going to be hard to find some that I haven't heard, but there are still some classics that I never checked out. One, of course, being Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, which will kick things off very shortly. As always, my name is Randy Joe. I appreciate you watching, and I'm signing off.